Hey everyone, Jack Keeper here, and in this video we're going to take a look at Garuda Linux, but a different flavor. Now, as you probably remember from if you saw a couple videos back, I had switched to Garuda Linux from OpenSUSE, and I am using the Dragonized version, which is a KDE spin of the Garuda Linux desktop, and it's based on Arch. I gotta tell you, I've been really happy with it. It's just a beautiful, fantastic desktop. And I was kind of perusing their website this morning, and I noticed an interesting spin that they have here called UKUI. And I think that's pretty cool. It's based on the Ubuntu Kylin user interface. And I think that's pronounced Kylin. In Chinese, I believe that would probably be pronounced Chee-lee-in, a mythical animal that would be ridden by the gods, like maybe a scaly tiger or something. Anyway, this looks like a really cool distro, and I thought I would just kind of give it a spin here and kind of evaluate it. So I don't really know much about it other than it's a fork of Mate, and it was developed by a Chinese entity of some sort. So yeah, quite honestly, I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing Mate correctly or if that's supposed to just be mate. I've heard both, and it seems like both sides really kind of despise the other for the way they pronounce it. So for half of you guys out there, sorry. But to me, Mate just seems more natural. And if I remember right, I think I remember hearing or reading somewhere that Mate was named after something Spanish that was pronounced Mate, and it had some kind of meaning, but I never really went into it because it's just semantics. You know, really, who cares how it's pronounced? As long as it works, right? So, anyways, I already went ahead and downloaded the ISO on here, and since I'm on the subject anyway, I also just noticed here, just before I started this video, I got a comment from a user, Dan Snickles. Dan, I guess you and me are on the same kind of wavelength, because I gotta tell you, when I first was looking over this page and I was downloading the Dragonized Linux, I had scrolled down to near the bottom, maybe not that near, and I also kind of came across the Garuda Wayfire, and that kind of piqued my interest. I took a look at that too, and I thought to myself, that's kind of interesting. So, you know, I might even take a look at that as well. Maybe I'm just fixating too much on one distro. So, if you think so or not, you know, just let me know in the comments below. I'd like to hear your feedback on it. With that said, let's jump into UKUI, or Kylin, or Chee-lee-in. That's kind of how I like pronouncing it, because I think that's the Chinese pronunciation for this. So let's take a look, shall we? Okay, here we are at the Garuda boot menu. So let's go ahead and continue. And there it is, the big white bird, the king of birds, the Garuda. Actually, I like that splash screen. It's pretty cool. Okay, now we should be coming up onto a login prompt here, or actually the screen. Oh, nope, login prompt. Okay. I believe if this is, yeah, I guess it would help to use the right password. If you get a login prompt, which normally you don't, but if you do, username is Garuda, password is Garuda. And so now we'll go ahead and go into our main screen here. On our screen, the first thing we see is our welcome screen. And of course, this is the live version, so this isn't actually installed yet. Why don't we go ahead and install it and see how it goes. So I'm going to hit install Garuda Linux. And here we go, Linux rolling installer. And by the way, this is based on Arch. So just like Manjaro or Arco Linux, this is an Arch-based distro. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And here we should be able to go through with the defaults pretty much all the way through. And here I'm going to say, I'm going to go with just the default, erase the disk. Now typically what I would do is I would have either two disks, and I would put the Linux install on one disk and then the home folder on a second disk, and allocate the second disk to the home folder. I like to have them separate normally. And if not a second disk, then a second partition. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just hit erase disk, no swap. Remember, Garuda will create Z partitions, so we will be allocating memory to swapping. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And now let's come up with a username. How about something sophisticated, something that has the air of class, such as, how about Toadwick? Yes. That's a fancy way of saying toad, except it's somebody's name. Toadwick. Hello there, Toadwick. Okay, I'll carry on. Let's see. So we'll just give it a password here. And we'll go with use the same for administrator account. And then hit next. And this is something I always check, especially if I'm reinstalling Linux, and oftentimes I have my home partition separate. So if I had to do a reinstall for some reason, my Linux got totally gutted, drive failed, whatever, then usually I'm going to go into manual partitioning and then format the Linux drive for install, and then the home folder would not be formatted. And if I remember right, the Calamares installer does not have the format flag set by default. So you should be pretty good there. I mean, that's a nice little safety valve, I guess you could call it. So when you want to reformat something, then you would hit the format checkbox. And in this case, for your home partition or your home drive, you would definitely want to make sure it's not formatted. And here's where you would check. In this case, we just have the one drive, and we're using the whole thing for everything, home folder and the works. So I'm going to go ahead and hit install. And there we go. Now when I installed Garuda UKUI on my main computer, it took about 6 or 7 minutes roughly for the install to complete, really fast. So I'll just sit here and I'll stare at you for the next 6 minutes, and you can stare back at me. And won't that be fun? No, I'm kidding. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and pause the machine here, and then we will be back as soon as this install is completed. Wow, there we go. That was quick. That was barely 5-6 minutes maybe. Not bad. Okay, let's go ahead and restart this baby. So I'm going to go ahead and close that and hit restart. Actually, I could have just checked that box in there. I don't know why I didn't. But no big deal. Nice screen too. I like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and reboot. There we go. There's our login screen. Toadwick. Because this is kind of my first look, and it didn't take me long to get into the display setting. So I'm going to say yes there on getting a mirror list. And that looks good, so that'll update my mirrors and all that. That's pretty cool. I like that that came up in the beginning. That's a good impression that I'm getting right away. And while that's doing its thing, let's just take a look at this real quick. This is our welcome screen. Very much like the welcome screen from our last video when I reviewed my new daily driver, which is the dragonized version of Garuda, which is running KDE Plasma Desktop. And so this looks very much, I would say, the same for the most part. Have our network assistant, our Garuda Gamer, which is pretty cool. Like I said, you can go in there and it's got all your stuff for gaming if you're really into that. So like Proton is really great. That's your tricked out version of Wine, which is optimized for gaming. You have Play on Linux, which is great. Lutris, of course, yeah. Gotta have Lutris. And Steam, of course. So yeah, it all looks good. Just tons of stuff. You're really set up nice if you want to do gaming here. OBS Studio too, if you want to make gaming videos. Nice. And then of course your emulators. I love emulators, they're great. MAME, of course, I demoed a little bit in our last Garuda video. Then we got Dosbox. Dosbox is cool, you know, that's if you're a fan of the old DOS, like 6.0 MS-DOS, you know, that's really cool. Run an image of DOS and do all the fun stuff like DOS shell and back when, you know, Windows really wasn't a thing yet. So anyways, let's just kind of jump out of there. And then you have your Garuda Settings Manager. And here you got all these things that kind of make it easy for you instead of having to use the command line to figure things out. It's kind of set up here, which I remember Manjaro had a settings manager similar to this. You could change your kernel and looks very much like it. Here's our current kernel, 5.9.12-97, the TKG BMQ, I think it is. Nice, and that's, I guess, like an optimized kernel, so that's neat. And then you can set your time and date, you set up your user accounts and all that. Very cool. Hardware configuration. That's cool. Yeah, like Manjaro. It kind of lists out your video stuff here, whether you want to use open source or non-free type stuff installed. Lets you show dangerous configs and all devices. Yep, that definitely reminds me of their manager, and that was one thing I liked in Manjaro. I like that feature, and I think that was really smart that they kind of modeled after that, it looks like to me. And so add remove software, that probably launches our PAMAC manager. Time shift, excellent. That way if you happen to hose your system, you can go back to an earlier snapshot and be good as new. So anyway, our mirror list is updated. It gave us a log here real quick of everything it did, so that's nice to know. Cool. Doth I want to update now? Yeah, I guess I could do that. I'll let the update run in the background there while I do other things. And I see it's got Alacrity here, so that's nice. Alacrity terminal. I'm assuming it probably has Mate as well. Terminal. And we'll go with that and let it do its thing. Great. So while that's going, let's go ahead and explore our menu a little. So I'm going to hit this. And like I was saying, this whole environment, maybe it said it on the download page, I don't remember really looking, but looks just like a Windows 10 machine, you know, when you look at it just from here, with the exception of no search bar here, but it is up here in the menu. But yeah, I mean, very Windows 10 like. They themed it pretty much right after 10. Even has the show desktop right here at the end, just like Windows 10. That's pretty wild. I like that, actually. That's something that would really make somebody coming over from Windows very comfortable. I think it would make the experience a lot less intimidating going into Linux. That definitely has its pluses. Now, if Windows 10 was such a nightmare that you just want to forget about it, then you might want a different look. But anyway. And I'm looking at the layout here, and this looks like a Windows 10 menu without the BS over here on this side with all the little picture thumbnails of, I forgot what they were, you know, MSN News and, you know, stuff like that, and advertisements. Kind of a Windows 10 menu without the BS. And here's your little shortcuts, which I think on Windows 10 would be over on the other side. And here I guess you can sort them by letters. That's better. And then it looks like it categorizes them after that. Internet, video, blah, blah, blah. And here I think we can enlarge that. Wow, full screen. That's gorgeous. I love it. And here we have a menu over here on the side. These are the category menus, probably because I got this function selected now. So when we started out, we were probably here, which just shows them all. Personally, I like the menu over there. And then here we have the letter again, and looks like, yeah, we can select the letters. Very slick. I think that's pretty impressive. I like that. So they really have catered to a lot of different tastes here. And me personally, I kind of like this. And I do like the full screen. Especially when you got this over here on the left side. Back when I ran Deepin as a daily driver a few years ago, back when it was like 15 something. Their full screen menu was similar to this. And it did have an option, I think it was sitting right up here somewhere, where you could click it and display this. But of course it didn't have the letter option, which is cool. And I don't think it ever ran anything in alphabetical order. But Windows 10 does. So like when you're down here in this traditional menu, if you're a Windows 10 user, you would be used to seeing all your apps laid out in alphabetical order. Personally, I'm not a big fan of an alphabetical list, but, you know, hey, there's a comfort zone there, so that's cool for people transitioning over. So, yeah, okay. Enough obsessing on the menu. Let's see what we got here. So, by stock here, we got our Firefox and a VNC server. Nice. So you can run VNC on here pretty easily. SSH set up pretty nice. A modem manager. And then we got our BitTorrent client. That's great. I like BitTorrent. Always handy. UKUI. See, I'm seeing a lot of things in here that are GNOME related. I used GNOME for a little while, and GNOME 3. Like cheese, I remember that. And I thought GNOME was a pretty nice desktop. I didn't mind it that much at all, except I didn't like the fact, and I know it sounds anal, but I didn't like the fact that they took away my ability to store icons on the desktop. I understand their logic for removing it, but I don't like that kind of philosophy. I think instead of taking things away, you should turn it off by default, but still leave it in there. So for those diehards that say, I want it still, they can go in there and check it. I don't like the idea that they take away your choice. So yeah, that kind of turned me off on GNOME 3. The other thing was that it was using a bit more resources, and when I discovered Plasma had improved so much and became so efficient, I remember when I did a comparison, it was using much, much less. In fact, it was even using less resources than when I was on FCE, you know, since Plasma 5.1, I think it was. That's really what kind of turned me on to going to Plasma again. I remember playing with Linux in the early 2000s, and KDE was just an environment I liked better than the GNOME environment, even though I liked them both. Back then it was early GNOME, of course. So sorry about you GNOME fans there. That was just my gripe with it. But other than that, you know, and it was kind of a pain because you know, if I wanted to change the layout, like the menu, the taskbar was on the top, and if I wanted to move it on the bottom, it wasn't as simple as just right-clicking and say, move to the bottom. You know, I had to go out and get some kind of extension to allow me to do that. And I remember at the time, GNOME had just upgraded to a different version, just like right after I downloaded it. And then that extension wasn't compatible with it anymore, so I couldn't move it. And yeah, it kind of sucked. So I didn't like that, and I think I came up with a workaround and finally got it down there. But I mean, it was just a lot of headache just to kind of customize it the way I wanted it, and I just felt like it took away my choice to do things my way, and I just don't understand what's wrong with leaving the options there, even if you don't encourage it. To each his own. Okay, where was I? Back to the menu. And here we have video. So a lot here by default too. And I remember Cheese was like a app that would capture your camera. Don't remember exactly what it was for, but it was kind of cool. I kind of liked Cheese. And Audacious. I think that's a media player. Free Iptv. This is something I haven't heard of before. Wow, this is kind of cool. TV channels, let's check it out. Okay, so we got like, yeah, I wasn't expecting this. So we got all these international TV stations. Wow. Let's check out like some USA stuff. This is pretty wild. There must be a catch. I'm just gonna hit this real quick and see what happens. Okay, I'm not sure if this is actually working or if it's like downloading something. Gonna go back to the main menu here. Let's look at USA Local. Wow, that's kind of cool. Wow, 7 News Boston. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Check that out. Wow, I'm liking this.
I'm just going to throw this out as one of my ideas. Recently, the Aloha Stadium
Well,
stop, and they might condemn that stadium. Okay.
I'll be horse-wandled. Myrtle Beach, Florida Keys. Wow. Sounds like a fun place to be right now. Okay, well, that is totally surprising. Definitely was not expecting to find an app like this. Didn't know it existed. I'm sure you could download it in the off any distro that you have, but to see that installed here by default, that's pretty awesome. And then all these international, there's one from China. Wow, CCTV, I remember some of these. I've been to China a few times. A number of times actually. And CCTV 1 and 4 I think are news channels. Wow, that is just too wild. I know it, right? I was thinking the same thing. Me and that dude were right on the same wavelengths. Wow. Okay, anyway, I could use up a whole nother hour just messing with this thing. So I better jump out of here before I just get too carried away. But that is really kind of incredible. And there's full screen. Huh. All right. Like I said, must tear myself away. Okay, that's still updating. So yeah, I gotta say, I'm a little speechless at that. So that's neat. Very cool. Nothing much under development. I would be adding here like Lazarus and Cute Creator and stuff like that. Maybe Visual Studio Code and things like that here. Up here in the video, I'd probably be adding OBS Studio, maybe VLC Player. And then image, we have Eye of Mate Image Viewer. Very cool. Peak. I forgot what Peak was, but it's a cool app. I remember that part of it anyway. Here we have our document viewer under Office. No Office installed here, so it's pretty lightweight. I would personally probably install WPS Office. That seems to be the most Office compatible. If you're used to using MS Office, WPS Office is practically a clone. And like if you're an Excel person, I think you can pretty much do all the macros and formulas. They all come right over to WPS. So pretty amazing. You can even sort by color. I think I mentioned that in a previous video. So yeah, I do like WPS Office. And then finally we got our system down here, and looks like it's got all the goodies. Your package manager, add remove software there, Alacrity terminal, which is really great. Clock. Yeah, I'm just gonna look real quick. Yeah, it's a clock. Reason I looked there is because I wasn't sure if that was just like clock settings or what, but can jump out of there. That just kind of caught me by surprise. Okay, and there's our H-top. Let's see how that's looking, even though we're running a bunch of stuff here. Wow, look at that, 966 megs. That's actually pretty impressive. I thought there was going to be more. So that's good, especially considering that it's updating right now, and I think I have something else open, and the H-top itself, I guess. I think that's pretty good because Garuda's allocating memory as well for your swapping features. Remember, when Garuda allocates memory for swapping and so forth, that memory is not gone forever. So it's not a permanent thing. In other words, if you have an application and something's going crazy with that application and it's like gobbling up all your memory and it needs more memory, but it hit the top, that other memory that's set aside for your swapping is not really gone. In other words, if that application needs some of that memory that's set aside, it can take it. It's there for the takings. You still have all that memory available. It just doesn't show it. It just shows that it's allocating it for swap. So that's kind of how that works. So you don't want to get fooled into thinking that it took a section of your memory away and you can't use it, because it is there for your apps. All right. So that's why you don't lose any performance with the ZRAM. In fact, you're gaining performance. It's really a net gain. It's not a loss at all, even though at first glance, if you're not real familiar with Linux, you might take it that way. And then the rest of our stuff in here, we got our Garuda network, hardware locality, our welcome screen, Mate terminal. So that probably looks a little different. Yeah, it's got the white background. And of course that can all be changed if you like that. And what we have here, okay, it looks like our update is done. Upgrade to Ultimate. You can select which apps you want. Looks like a trap. No, I'm kidding. I'm gonna say yes. What the heck? At least then we can find out what it is that they're going for. I don't know if they mean like ultimate version of Linux, where you're gonna have like all the gaming stuff and they're gonna install a gazillion things, or what. So I'll just hit S here. Do you need Noto fonts, CJK font support? Yeah, why not? I mean, if you hit a site or something with Chinese characters or Japanese or whatever, that'll probably fit the bill. I'm always good with additional wallpapers. Yeah, we'll go for that. Snaps, flat pack, and app images. Heck yeah, man. Okay, well, I thought it was going to do more, but maybe that's all it wanted to know. Okay. Well, that was interesting. Let's look at the backgrounds. Let's see if there's a bunch of wallpapers in there. At least that'll kind of give me a clue on whether it did something. Well, there's a few in there, but I don't know if that's really any more than before. Okay, and you can also have a color background if you don't want a picture. But I think I'll stick with picture. And let's see what they got in here. Yeah, some of them are kind of cool. I kind of like that one. Yeah, that works for me. So I think I'll go with that. And I think we're kind of got our way through here, you know, with all the main stuff. So, and I like this Studio, Sousa Studio image writer. That's my favorite image writer actually for writing ISOs to U drives, especially bootable. Suspend and hibernate, time shift, of course, essential. Our UKUI control center. That's where we were before, I think. Wi-Fi hotspot. And then under others, we have our our archiver here and Grandpa. Firmware, good. Gesture manager, probably for extra gestures. I like this HP device manager. I have HP equipment, so I always like that that's installed there. That makes it a little easier. A weather app, it looks like. That's cool. Yeah, so it all looks like it's actually pretty feature rich, considering that it's a light install. And KDE Partition Manager, that's nice too. That's actually a pretty darn good manager. So let's jump back to our desktop real quick. I think I'll hit that. There we go. And let's see our settings here. So it starts out at our home screen here, and it's got them all categorized: system, personalized, account, update, devices, network, date, time, and messages. Cool. And so it gives us a lot of options here, even orientation and refresh rate and all that. Wow, very cool. And then here we can set our default applications, our default browser, for example, our default viewer. So this makes it really easy to set our default apps. That's nice. I like that for sure. Okay. And then these are our power settings. So you can set your times here, which is all cool for you. And then auto boot. So I believe these are your processes that load when you boot into your desktop here. And then here we have our device manager. This is pretty cool, our devices. So here's where I would add a printer. You can tweak your mouse here, set it for left-handed, and all that good stuff. Nice. We don't have a touchpad because this is a desktop. Okay, keyboard layout. That's all good. Okay, shortcut. And our audio settings. Very cool. And boot music. I suppose I would probably turn that off. I mean, if it's anything like Deepen was pretty annoying when the boot sound came on. KDE had this annoying issue where an alert sound would come up and go boink, or make some kind of an annoying sound, and you couldn't get rid of it unless you knew where that file was and you had to rename it. Themes. This is cool. So here's where we would change our themes. Looks like default and dark are our choices here. And then different icons, cursors, effect settings. We got our screen lock settings here. And apparently that's where you can lock it or opt not to lock it when if you have a screensaver kick in there. And here you can set your fonts and set a screensaver. Yeah, that's kind of cool. May there be enough clouds in your life to make a beautiful sunset. I like it. Looks like that's our default screensaver. Cool. And then some desktop settings here. And so, like, for example, if I wanted to put my Bluetooth manager on the, I guess, on the tray icon there, I would hit that and it would show up down here at some point. All right. And and PAMAC tray. So I'm thinking that's probably maybe where your updater indicator, yeah, right there. And I'm thinking the blue man there probably comes up when it's relevant. I would kind of guess. So I kind of like having the indicator down there. That's cool. That way you can kind of see when updates are available. And moving on, we got our network settings. Right now I'm using a wired connection, and if I wanted to turn on Wi-Fi, I could do that as well. Or. Then here's our user settings. Looks like I can change the, yeah, and wow, the resemblance is amazing. Same hair and everything. Huh. And a sunflower and some kind of mop. Golf club. Huh. That looks kind of cool. Anyway. And then you can select the local face. Go. Okay, so that's our user setting there. And here's where we can auto login if you like. Wow, it even has a login no password option. That's surprising. Okay. That would be nice, so I guess for like a guest. Date, time, and area. So here is you kind of set your regional settings here. So looks like our display format is China. So let's go ahead and change that to US. And that'll take effect on the next login. Our system language, yeah, again, I think I'd go with English. And then you can add another language there if you happen to have another one as your main. So our update, backup settings, it can never be important enough, I guess. And then notifications, so yeah, very good. That kind of covers that. This is a really nice OS. I like it. In fact, I could see myself using this on a machine or two. I think I would be very happy. Actually, you know, I didn't really take a good look at this, our file manager. It looks kind of interesting. Peony, I think it was. Yeah, peony cute. Nice. So yeah, that's a good looking file manager here. Looks really cool. Wow, there you go. You can launch a terminal right from your file manager. Very nice. That's a nice feature. And then create a new folder right there. Very handy spot for it. And here's our tabs. So if you want to have open tabs for other folders, you're covered. Very cool. I like. All right. Little preview window. Kind of like Dolphin. That's impressive too. I like that as well. So if you're looking like a text file, it kind of gives you a little thingy there. Yeah, very good. All right, so that's our file manager. And our right-click options, I forgot to see what was on here. So you can add an empty file or a folder. That's cool. View types, sort by, refresh, and our set background like we went to before. So nice. Oh, and our task views. So these are our different workspaces. I almost forgot about that. So I'll just throw that in real quick. So we can change our workspaces here. There's 4 different desktops by default. And of course you can have a gazillion if you want, but it's kind of nice to have something open here on one and then go to another workspace and, you know, just like open something else like Firefox. And then you can just switch back between workspaces. So yeah, I'm really liking it. You know, I might actually install that on a second partition, maybe use it when I'm recording videos and stuff like that, just because it seems to use a lot less resources might be more efficient. And with that, I guess that covers my review. I don't think I missed anything. If I did, don't forget to remind me. And if you like this video, hit that thumbs up button. And don't forget to subscribe as well. Thanks for watching the video. We'll see you next time.